So I had a recent debate with Chris at Speaker's Corner, and it seems like he's trying to lick his wounds after getting destroyed in the debate we just had on the quote-unquote Islamic dilemma. I showed with the generous reading of the Quran that is consistent with how Chris reads the Gospels, then this isn't an issue at all. Roll the clips.
Did Jesus believe in all of the oral law that the Pharisees were teaching?
I'm going to say no.
Do you believe in Matthew 23, Jesus is commanding the disciples to obey absolutely everything that the Pharisees teach?
Is it absolutely everything?
Yep.
I'm asking.
Okay, he's not. Right. So you believe this is a general statement where Jesus is saying to obey the Pharisees where there's exceptions and it's not an absolute thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you have that level of charitability when you read the Quran?
Very simple, because the Quran makes it absolutely clear that it affirms the Injil and you have nothing to stand on unless you stand on the Injil. The Injil was revealed from God, and yeah, you have to stand on it, Christians, and you will be considered disbelievers if you don't. As you admitted, the major narrative is one that Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is divine. You admit.
I suggest everyone to watch the full debate on my channel. I'll put a link in the description. But it seems like he took upon himself to cope by claiming I was cheating during the debate.
Response for things, and I mean, he's also like, looking under the table. He's got his phone. He's texting Ibrahim, and Ibrahim's responding to him like, "Hey, you should say this. You should say this. Don't say this." Keep in mind again, during this whole debate, you just constantly keep seeing them just looking down at their phone or something like this, and it's so obvious because it's like, look, guys, how obvious is this, right? If I look at you like this and I'm talking to you, and then I do this, how obvious is it that I'm now typing on my phone? I think this is pretty obvious, but if I just keep looking back, you won't notice that I'm doing this. But yeah, through the whole debate, both of them seem to be messaging people. There was even an awkward point where there was like a phone notification sound playing through someone's mic, and I thought, oh, okay, these guys are messaging in real time. And Discord messages during a live stream debate will not help you on the Islamic dilemma.
And I could say, Wallahi, Uqsim Billah, I never looked at one message anyone sent me during the debate. Now, the issue is, if Chris was consistent with his standard of, because you and the moderator were looking down, therefore you guys were cheating, if this is his only sort of evidence, then that's extremely weak and makes him look like a complete joke and slanderer. Let's look at some compelling evidence now that your own good friend, God Logic, cheated in his recent debate with brother John Fontaine. So let's make that compelling case, shall we? By Chris's standards, I'm not saying necessarily Avery cheated. I'm not willing to make such a bold claim and slander. However, using Chris's standard, Avery would definitely meet the criteria.
Prophet Muhammad and asked him what were the commandments that were given to Moses. Okay. He lists the commandments. The commandments don't match your Bible. I was asking you if
does it say the 10 commandments that were given to Moses?
I was asking if they matched your commandments. You said no, and that's it.
Are you asking if it matches the 10 commandments or does it match any commandments in the Bible?
No, I'm asking did it match your 10 commandments?
Okay, does it mention the 10 commandments in that hadith?
Yes.
It says so they asked what were the 10 commandments because it didn't say like.
No, it says what were the 9 commandments.
Okay,
and then
so
the Prophet gives the final commandment, which was to them. Okay, so they were hiding the final commandment, which was to keep the Sabbath. This is one of the things that the Jews were trying to do.
So the first thing to bear in mind is that Avery doesn't know the content of the hadith that John is quoting. He is completely blindsided by John bringing this to the table. So what was his response? Well, we're going to have to wait for his friend to actually send him the response.
Christians in their possession, they have it in between their hands. So we have paraphrases, we have acquaintance with the Christians, with the Orthodox Church that had Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And by the way, you misquoted the hadith. You lied about the hadith about the 9 commandments. It says 9 signs, not commandments.
Ayah, he says. Ayah.
Yes, you said commandments.
Ayah.
Notice how, for the entire time, for however so many minutes, he not once had even time to breathe and search for the hadith. Even if it was the first link to search up, it would be incredibly hard to multitask by reading the hadith and analyzing it and formulating a response while being questioned by John. Not to mention that me personally, I couldn't even find for a good couple of minutes in the English translations trying to search it, which again heightens the probability someone actually sent Avery this response from the comfort of their home. As you can see, none of these links actually show you the hadith. And lastly, the cherry on top, before Avery responds, he looks down and then gives the response. So Chris, are you going to be consistent and say Avery cheated? Are you going to be consistent with such a low standard that you've set to now accuse Avery for cheating during that debate? Or is it only when you're coping from Muslim-inflicted wounds that you be so uncharitable with someone?